for Kandara, Honorable Gladys Shalay, the Member of Parliament for Western Gishu County, our delegation this morning also includes some key members of our economic team, and they include Honorable Aden Duale, Member of Parliament for Garissa Town. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Duale. Mheshimiwa yupi mwingine? I think those are our members of Parliament here this morning. Let me also acknowledge members of our economic team. Yes, Mheshimiwa Ichungwa, Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichungwa, Member of Parliament for Kikuyu Town. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Ichungwa. We have members of our economic team here, led by Dr. David Ndi, Professor Njuguna Ndu, Dr. Irene Asienga. Those are members of our economic team. And our other staff, including the Chief of Staff of the Office of the Deputy President, Mr. Davis Chirchir, and the Director for Legal Affairs in the Office of the Deputy President, Dr. Korir Singoe, and our other staff. The EU team is led here by Her Excellency Henriette Geiger, Ambassador of the delegation of the EU to Kenya. The delegation includes the following ambassadors: Mr. Christian Fellner from Austria, I will actually pass the mic around for that introduction, and I'm going to quickly pass that mic to Ambassador Geiger, who will then lead the introduction of the rest of the team.
Good morning, I'm Henriette Geiger, the EU Ambassador. I will just go to my right and then we go to the left.
Morning, my name is Ole Tonge, I'm the Danish Ambassador.
Good morning, Cristina Diaz, Ambassador of Spain.
Good morning, Peter Maddens, Ambassador of Belgium.
Good morning, Alberto Pieri, Italian Ambassador.
Good morning, my name is Jill Clements, I'm the Deputy Ambassador for Ireland.
Good morning, I'm Annika Otterstedt, I'm the Deputy Ambassador of Sweden.
Good morning, my name is Joseph Roja, I'm the Deputy Ambassador from Hungary.
Good morning, I'm Ana Rocha, I'm the Ambassador of Portugal.
Jumbo, Martin Brouwer, I'm the Ambassador for the Netherlands.
Good morning, I'm Pirkko Tapiola, Ambassador of Finland.
Good morning, Christian Fellner from Austria, Ambassador.
Good morning, my name is Katerina Žufala-Ligdenova, I'm the Slovak Ambassador.
Good morning, I'm Dragos Tsiga, Ambassador of Romania.
Good morning, Thomas Wimmer, Deputy Ambassador, Germany.
Good morning, Adam Piños, I'm the Deputy Ambassador of the Czech Republic.
Thank you very much. Accompanying this delegation, Your Excellency, is the Director for Europe at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Angeline Musili. Karibu sana Balozi Musili kwa niaba ya Wizara ya Foreign Affairs. This breakfast engagement comes at a very appropriate time. It comes again as the backdrop of the Kenya-EU Strategic Dialogue 2021-2027 that was executed here in Nairobi on the 28th day of January this year during the official visit of the EU High Representative and Vice President. The dialogue sets 3 key pillars in Kenya-EU cooperation. And the purpose of this engagement this morning is to facilitate our interaction as Team Kenya Kwanza with the EU delegation on the basis of that strategic dialogue. This conversation also comes just a couple of months before the general election. So it's also a good opportunity for the EU delegation to have a feel of what our team has to offer this country. And so without wasting any time, I am going to invite our Head of Economic Affairs, Dr. David Ndi, to share with us some thoughts that inform the economic model that underpins our engagement. Dr. Ndi, please.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Excellencies. Karibuni sana, our Deputy President and Presidential Candidate, our political leaders, Musalia Mudavadi, Wetangula, Hono Wetangula, Mutua, Governor Mutua, and others. I'm not going to go through all of you, but I guess I'll stick with the all protocols observed sort of thing. Let me acknowledge my colleagues, Professor Ndungu, Dr. Asianga there, and my technical team here. Mine is very brief. It is just to provide an overview of what our economic platform and our policy platform is. I said my name is David Ndi. I lead the policy and platforms team, economic platform team of this campaign. Those of you who follow a bit of our media will have watched some of our town hall engagements with people around their economic issues. And I want to start by pointing out that our objective is not just to have an economic platform, but also to change the conversation in our politics. We're trying to engineer a paradigm shift from conversation about power and positions and all sorts of things of that nature to policies and the programs and the issues that are of interest to the people. And I think we are succeeding. Our policy program is called bottom-up economics, and it is now all the rage around the world. We've been probably talking about it longer than many people who've made it famous, like the US. So I'll just highlight why we think that is the way to go for Kenya, and that should be the political platform about our socio-economic transformation. We have based that on, we have 3 principles. We think that there are 3 principles that underpin this platform. One is that markets must work for everyone. When I was working in the development world about 2 decades ago, there was a conversation going around saying markets, making markets work for the poor. But I said, no, not just for the poor. They must work for the poor, but they must work for everyone. I believe even in the countries you come from, this conversation is going on about whether markets are working for everyone, about the sort of capture of political process by the corporate big and market power, the exercise of market power, both in the economy and as something that is a threat to the democratic process. So that's one of the key things, that markets must work for everyone, and in this country they must absolutely work for the majority, which they are not. Markets are working for very small people. Obviously, in poor countries, you also have challenges of systemic market failures, which Professor Ndungu can probably talk about better than me. That's what he does that's his day job, to look at such things. But also markets are being undermined very fundamentally at the rule of law level by chronic capitalism and state capture. That's something that we are very alive to, and that we have to, that's a political economy problem, and that's something that we can only be confronted politically. The second issue, principle, in this country is very specific to this country, and it's about distribution of capital. Ownership and distribution of capital. We are an entrepreneurial economy, but if you look at how capital is allocated in this country, capital should be distributed so that it can raise the productivity of the labor force. But if you look at this country, where the capital is and where the labor force is not the same place. So capital is too concentrated in a few hands and enterprises, where it creates highly profitable enterprises, but it undermines the productivity and employment in the economy. So we need to have a conversation around how do we distribute capital, redistribute capital, so that it goes to where it can raise productivity and address issues of poverty and inequality and many other things that are undermining a threat to stability and livelihoods of people. The third theme is around social protection. And again, here it's an issue of inequality, that if you look at our legacy social protection systems around health, around old age security, around various things, they have a very narrow base. They are designed around an elite, shall you say, structure because of our colonial legacy. They are not fit for purpose. So the principle here is the principle of universalism, that we need social protection systems that are universal, that reach everyone, that are equitable and not regressive. Within that, we need to look at our pension systems, NSI, for our healthcare, insurance type issues, workforce sort of protection, all those rubric of what then, because that's how then economy translates to human development. Those are the principles. Question of making markets work, having a system of equitable distribution of capital. We don't want concentration of capital in this sort of society undermines growth and productivity and incomes, as well as the question of fit for purpose social protection and institutions. Those are the principles. In terms of actual translation of those into policy and programs, we have organized ourselves, our priorities around 4 pillars. Pillar 1 is agriculture-led growth. We are making a statement that we believe at our Kenya right now, the way out of many of the immediate challenges we are facing, economic debt, whatever, has to be starting with agriculture, which is what is at the bottom of our economy, the primary economy. That's where most of people are working. That's where our capital is. That's where our labor force is. That's where our competitiveness is. And by focusing on agriculture very squarely, we think that's where we're going to get inclusive growth. That is where we can get immediate supply response and bounce back on the balance of payment side, because that's where our exports can grow fastest. That's where we can increase exports most quickly. And also there are areas that we can substitute imports, particularly in the area of food. You're familiar with the kind of crisis that is caused in the commodities, particularly agricultural commodities, by the Ukraine war, those kind of shocks. And therefore, in this country, over the last couple of decades, we have seen a huge increase in dependence on food imports, which are now having this kind of macroeconomic impact. And those reflect largely the neglect of agriculture and stagnating productivity, and that's one of the things we need to address. So growth and incomes, the external imbalances that we have. The third thing that it will help is with cost of living, particularly for urban poor households, because half and more of the income, the expenditures of our urban households, and including rural ones actually, are on food. So intervention in agriculture is the way to keep food prices down, and by keeping food prices down, you increase the discretionary incomes of people, and that will probably give you a bigger multiplier effect in the other sectors. And of course, food security particularly. We are very much focused on food security, particularly for the poorest households, because most of our poorest households are farmers. They are resource poor farmers. So the way to address that food insecurity is in fact to raise their productivity, because they are mostly semi-subsistence farmers. So we actually need to increase the productivity of subsistence agriculture. And the fourth thing is jobs. We see most of the jobs immediately coming out of agribusiness. That is both sides of the agricultural value chain, from the input side and then on the output sides, post-harvest better post-harvest management. We lose a lot of our produce in post-harvest. There are opportunities there. So we see these challenges as opportunities. Solving these problems will, in fact, create jobs. So the second pillar is micro and small enterprises. Outside smallholder agriculture, this is where most Kenyans work. Over 85% of non-farm jobs are in micro and small enterprises. But the vast majority of the people there, in our estimate about 10 million, actually have no capital to work with. Part of it, a huge part of it, is actually just mitigating open unemployment. So we don't think that in the short run we are going to create jobs for those people by bringing in new investments in large enterprises and corporates. We're going to create jobs for those people by raising their productivity and their incomes where they are. And that's why our focus there is on how we create an enabling environment for the micro and enterprises. And some of the interventions we need there are around property rights, about the regime, about business support services, but also about access to finance. Yes. Particularly for small businesses. And you increasingly find that when people have health shocks and they don't have health cover, then they take money out of their businesses to take care of illnesses. So there is a direct connection there, which I don't think needs to be belabored. The fourth pillar is housing and settlement. And the reason for that also is, if you look at our demographic structure, you will see we have a big thing we call the youth bulge. Our population is young. The bulk is really in their late teens now, mid-teens and early 20s. And when people grow up, after that stage, they do something called household formation. They move out of their parents' houses to their own houses. And then they start families. So that is the big thing that we are going to be seeing, social sort of dynamic, demographic dynamic that we are going to be seeing in this country over the next decade, a couple of decades. And therefore you have to ask, how are those people enabled? It's both an imperative, because if we don't provide affordable housing, it's going to happen anyway. So what you get is unplanned urbanization, bad settlement patterns, yet it creates a huge opportunity in terms of the housing market, in terms of its connections with the micro and small enterprises, Jua Kali, as we call it in Kenya, being a producer of housing and housing goods. And the second part about settlement has also to do with our land use and agriculture, access to land. As I said, we are still an agricultural country. It has to do with the environment. Because what you see now is that the demographic pressure is pushing more and more people into ecologically sensitive places. And in the face of the kind of climate change and the resilience that we need to think about how we stop that, how we reclaim and increase our forest cover, how to ensure that we reduce the environmental stress, particularly between people competing with nature. And to do that, we have to think very seriously and have very deliberate interventions around settlement patterns and people's access to agricultural land. So these things are not mutually exclusive. Each of them is connected to the other. But that in a nutshell. It obviously is not comprehensive, but those are the things that we see will hit the most bads that we need to hit with as few stones as possible. So thank you very much. And that, I think, is all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Dr. Ndi. The EU established a diplomatic presence here in 1976. In that 46 years, our relationship has grown to what I indicated in my introduction as now Kenya-EU strategic dialogue. In that period, the European Union has also grown to become Kenya's largest trading partner, accounting for 17.2% of Kenya's overall trade. The EU is also today Kenya's second largest market, with average exports amounting to